This is Joe and Cole with GrowingYourDreams.com. Today another exciting episode for you, coming at you from my garden here. Just gardening in the pretty early morning because it heats up really fast here. But, you know, I was actually in the garden working, and I thought I'd actually stop and take the time to make a video for you guys, because what I was thinking about and what I'm doing today is actually quite important for all you guys out there. You know, I visit many different permaculture farms and all this kind of stuff, and, you know, one of the big things for gardeners are the weeds. I mean, the weed. Wait, the weeds. Sorry, the weeds. Sorry, got distracted. So, yeah, I mean, weeds occur in the garden. And your definition and how you particularly look at weeds, you know, is the whole concept that I'm trying to share with you guys today. So, like, if you look up in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, weed, it might say marijuana. Actually, I mean, if you look up weeds in the Merriam-Webster dictionary, it might say, like, an unwanted or undesired plant. I don't exactly know what it says because I didn't look it up. But, you know, I want you guys to basically, I mean, use what common definitions are in your definition, but then also expand your definition and don't always believe what you're being told. Like, question everything is something, I don't know if my dad taught me that, but I learned that at some young age. But question everything, because, you know, a lot of things that we're being taught may not be exactly right. So, anyways, so with the weeds, you know, one of the things I've learned at the permaculture farms that I've visited is that there's no such thing as a weed. You know, my friend Ryan in Hawaii, you know, harvests his weeds and uses it as food for his chickens. So if you got chickens, you could pull your weeds and use it food for your chickens, you know. I use my weeds here for fuel for my compost, right? It literally breaks down and turns, you know, into new soil for me. So weeds are a great benefit, unless you got a shit ton of them. Luckily, I don't have a whole lot of them, because one of my gardening practices is that I bring in compost. It's been fully composted so that it doesn't have a lot of weed seeds. I'm not gardening in the standard soil that's existing here, and that's something very important to me, is actually to bring in some soil and to build raised beds like I built here, so you could have a lush garden. It's going to make, you know, your work in the garden just that much easier by not having to deal with, you know, whatever is in, meaning contaminants or nutrients or lack thereof, in your existing soil. So that's why I like to bring in some good compost. That being said, I do make my own compost, and my compost works pretty well, but it doesn't deactivate all the weed seeds. So I do get some particular ones coming back, which some of them actually I do encourage. And you know, the whole concept of this video is, if you look at the bed behind me, you're like, John, that's a cool raised bed garden. What do you got planted back there, man? You got like a mixed bed, right? You got all kinds of stuff. I see maybe some squash or cucumbers or melons and some peppers and some tomatoes. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff behind me here. But believe it or not, this personally is my pepper bed. If you look closely, there's like a pepper here, like every 11 inches, and I'm quite methodical when planting. Maybe every 10 and a half, 11 inches. You know, and there's like 4 rows of them, but you'd never know that, because basically I let this grow out. Well, halfly because I'm so damn busy doing all kinds of other stuff, spreading compost tea and dealing with other big problems before I'm tending to these guys. You know, but for me, you know, the weeds serve a benefit. You know, when my plants were smaller, you know, the weeds grew faster than my plants. And this was good because it provided them some shade. And still, you know, I mean, you could see some of these plants, like some of my peppers are getting shaded out fairly well by some of the other plants that have grown up faster around them and actually have outcompeted them, which is a good thing when they're small. But I don't want to outcompete them their whole lives, because that's going to rob them of sun and nutrients that the weeds are actually pulling up. So, you know, that's one benefit of the weeds, is to help your plants along. So it's oftentimes used in permaculture practices where you plant junk trees or nitrogen fixing NFTs, nitrogen fixing trees, or plants near your trees that may outcompete them and help shade them out, and then you just chop them and drop them in and like put them back in your soil to build your soil. So all these weeds here, I mean, they're helping me out. And then number 2, all the ones that I've left, because I have pulled, you know, random grass seeds and stuff, you know, are food. So like these guys right here are known as the purslane, and you could eat it. It's very high in essential fatty acids, omega-3 fatty acids. It actually has a nice lemony, kind of succulent flavor. It's actually quite good. So I could just come out here and harvest all kinds of purslane for my salads and whatnot. I'd probably just like pick a whole bunch of purslane and mix it in with my lettuce and all my other things that go in the salad. You could also juice the stuff up and blend it up to make green smoothies, or green juices, it does get kind of gelatinous. That's one weed I have in here. I really like the fleshy stems here. Here's a fleshy stem right here, right? And this is just like nature's water. You can just take this, chew it up, and then spit out the pulp. It's just like purified water from nature. And instead of like, if you are gonna compost these, I encourage you guys to pull some out, take some nice fleshy stems, and faint lemon flavor, full of water. It's gonna keep you hydrated, especially when you're gardening in the hot sun. But yeah, fleshy stems, super amazing. And yeah, when you're done, compost all the stuff and turn it back into soil to re-enrich your garden later. So, you know, I'm gonna systematically cut out some of these guys so that it doesn't shade out my peppers as much. Another one I got right here is known as the lamb's quarters, and this is yet another edible weed. An edible weed is a good weed indeed. And what this guy is, this is basically lamb's quarters. This is a chenopodium family plant. It's related to spinach. So once again, it's all edible raw. And, you know, I love to, you know, add this also to my salads. And actually, this stuff's quite good. I like the little tender baby leaves when I'm eating salads. The larger leaves I'll use in juices and green smoothies. But yeah, you know, the nutrient you guys need the most is the one you're not getting, right? And weeds can provide nutrients you're not getting, because you might grow lettuce, you might grow kale, but when's the last time you ate some of the purslane or the lamb's quarters, right? Now, besides those two weeds I have in my garden, I have other volunteers, which you may consider weeds in my garden, such as, let's see, this guy, where is it? Right over here. It's a tomato plant. John, tomatoes aren't weeds. Well, a tomato plant is a weed to me if it's not growing where I want it to grow, because the tomato plant will easily outcompete the peppers, shade them out, you know, and then my peppers aren't going to do well. And in addition, I have a video entitled 10 Reasons Why I Like to Grow Peppers Instead of Tomatoes. I'll put a link down below to that video for you guys. And yeah, I mean, basically they get a lot more disease, and, you know, they're not quite as tolerant of the desert heat here in Las Vegas. But yeah, this guy might let grow, you know, because I will use my weeds to my advantage, like I'll show you guys in a second. Actually, that's what I'm doing today, and that's why the whole reason for this video. Another weed that I have coming up are probably some, either some melons or some Armenian cucumbers, which are also kind of melons. And actually, this is one growing through my pepper bed also. As you guys can see, it's just like all these lily pad style leaves all through here is just like, I think, one vine. So, you know, my goal is to use this to my advantage, because what I'm going to do is, my goal is to actually trellis it up and then put it on top of my overhang structure. And I'm just going to have it go up there, and once it's up there, I'm just going to let it vine out. The roots will be down here, but it's going to have one pole that guides it up to the roof, and then it's going to just do its thing up there. Then I could climb up on the roof and harvest tons of produce. So that's going to be really cool. So let me go ahead and show you guys how I'm actually doing that today with my tomatoes in my other pepper bed that's being overgrown with, you know, a few tomato plants. All right, so these are some of my volunteer tomatoes, and look at how they're coming in really nice. So, you know, I have no clue what variety these are. You know, I go through a lot of tomatoes, and, you know, the seeds usually go through the compost. Whether I grew the tomatoes, they dropped and they composted down, or there's some actually I bought and then they rotted and then I threw them in the compost and then they grow. So I don't really care what variety they are. I don't care if they're a mixed variety. All I care is that they're edible and that they're delicious. And this plant is actually doing really nicely. You can see it's like really loaded up with a whole bunch of tomatoes that are ripening, and there's even more coming on. One of the things about this tomato is that, you know, the tomato, it chooses itself, you know, when the weather conditions are right and the seed's in the ground, it decides it wants to germinate because the conditions are right for it. You know, if you have maybe some cold tolerant varieties of tomatoes like the Oregon Spring, good grown in Oregon, it's probably not going to do too well here. It's probably not going to sprout, but these hot tolerant ones are just going to come up because it's like, whoa, these conditions are perfect for me to grow, and it does. And yeah, as you can see, there's like so many different cherry tomatoes up here. And there's actually, even though we've been hitting triple digits, you know, at least for the last 2 weeks, there's still flowers, and this is still producing fruit. So let's go down. And you know, when picking tomato, it's very important to get the darkest, deepest colored tomato that you could see on the plants. So like here's some orange ones. Oh yeah, these are orange tomatoes. No, because you could look, oh, this is orange and these are way more red. So you're gonna wanna go down to some of these red ones and oh, that was a nice one. Because I just touched it and it just popped off in my hand. So that's another sign that it's ripe. When it comes off and the plant wants to give it up, like the girl wants to give it up in the bedroom, that's the time to take it. All right, so, but not otherwise, okay? Don't keep pulling or don't keep, you know, trying to go after a girl if she's not interested. That's not cool, guys. All right, so here's a ripe tomato. We're gonna wipe this off and then we're gonna go ahead and pop it in the mouth. Wow, one good tomato. All right, let me go ahead and show you guys what else I'm doing with my tomatoes in my garden today. All right, so as you guys can see, this is another one of my pepper beds. I was planted previous to the other bed behind me that you guys just saw with all the melons and lamb's quarters and purslane in there. And this guy's doing pretty well. Some of these peppers are topping about 2 feet, 2.5 feet. But one of the problems is like this tomato here has totally outcompeted the peppers. And I planted the peppers from, you know, transplants. And this tomato just came up from seed. And if you guys look here, and this is just like a massive bush right here, man. And, you know, as much as I like tomatoes, it's growing in the wrong place. And I do want my pepper plants to be able to thrive. So what I've been doing is actually I've been going through and systematically cutting out some of the tomato volunteers or weeds that are in this garden. And some of them actually I'm saving because the plant's a nice plant. And actually I'm going to just move them up and out of the way of my peppers so I can actually grow both tomatoes and peppers in harmony. It's like ebony, ivory, living in perfect harmony. And this is why I'm a gardener instead of a singer. All right, so as you guys can see behind me, I don't know if you guys can see that. Basically, I got a bamboo pole stuck in the ground, and the bamboo pole not quite have the rigidity to not fall over. So I put in like a U-post, you know, metal U-post, T-post or whatever, and you know, stuck that in there. And basically, I trellised the tomato straight up it, and I pruned it back to single stem it up. And so I have a video on single stemming tomatoes if you need to see that. But basically, I'm cutting off all the suckers, and I'm training it to go straight up where I want it to grow. I'll let some of the top mass grow out, and maybe later I'll put like a T on that, or make like you know, and like kind of like an H trellis to like let it spread out, or maybe I'll just keep it pruned out. You know, some of the goals are I want the tomatoes that's currently on there to be able to ripen up, so I'll be able to eat them. And then I want that to continue to grow to make me more tomatoes, because actually some of the ones like from last year, my best producing tomato plants were not the ones I planted from the nursery, but from volunteers. So I want to capitalize, you know, and take advantage of this. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and just take this guy that's all spread in here. Now you guys are seeing the before. We'll leave the camera in a similar place, and then I'm actually you guys are going to see the after I prune this back pretty heavily, and then actually you know, single stem it up to get it out of the way of my peppers, so I could have both peppers and tomatoes instead of just a lot of tomatoes with little peppers. All right, so as you guys can see, I got this area cleaned up really nice. Probably filled up about 1 5-gallon bucket, cutting off basically all the suckers off the tomato plant. And the sucker is kind of like, you know, you got the plant going straight up and there's a leaf that comes out. The sucker is one that comes out like in the armpit. So if you had plants coming out of your armpit, those are the suckers. So just kind of try to imagine that. So that's what I did. I trimmed them all back, and as you guys can see now, we have basically this one massive growth here. I left one sucker come out, and this is right here. And what I did was I basically staked in a 5-foot like T-post. I think I call it a U-post. It's not really a T, it's a U. It's the cheaper ones. And then basically I sunk in a 6-foot tall bamboo stake to basically support it. So, and also it looks nicer. Like I like the look of the bamboo. It's also more renewable, and they last longer than wood. So like this one stake was like $1.50. I got them before for like $1. About $1.50 is the going price. And as you guys can see, I'm wearing some gloves because the tomato leaves tend to irritate my skin, make me really itchy. And if you wash your hands after handling tomato leaves, you'll get this yellow coating. It's kind of on the gloves, and that's why I'm wearing the gloves. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and tie this up. And the way I like to do it, instead of just using standard string that you could maybe use once, and then you got to like compost out if it's plant-based, or throw it away if it's like a synthetic nylon or petroleum base. I like to encourage you guys to use something reusable instead of things that have one-time uses. So I have like a lot of these plant clips. Here's actually one right here. But the problem is the plant clips won't really fit around my stake too well. So I've actually found another really cool reusable plant tie that I like a lot. And this is one of the ones I've used. This is actually the Velcro brand for gardeners, and it's just green and it's on a roll. So you just unroll it and then you just you know, cut it to the size you need it. So basically I'll come around and see how long I need it, then I'll just basically find where it is and I'll just cut it. And once I cut it, the cool thing is I basically just go up to a little area where I have the Velcro holding my bamboo to the metal, and I'll just stick it on there. And I'll just go ahead and do a bunch of these at each of the spots. So when I'm, you know, pinning this up, I could easily grab the Velcro that's waiting for me. All right, so now that I got all the Velcro cut, we're gonna go ahead and just carefully take this stem. And I like to always work from the bottom up, all the way up to the bottom, maybe a little bit higher than the pepper plants. I've left some leaves here, and I'm gonna try to cut off all the suckers. But I have left all the tomatoes here on the bottom, as you guys can see, because I want those to ripen up, and I want them to go in me. So we're just basically gonna kind of wrap this guy around and bring him all the way to my bamboo slash metal pole, and I'll try to like hold it up with my shoulder while I'm getting my wrap around it, and just to wrap it up. The Velcro is really nice, makes this nice and simple. And we'll take another one off, and we'll just continue to try to hold this guy straight up. This helps if you have a helper, a wife, a husband, or a friend. So I'm just going to go ahead and use my shoulder again to hold it up, because if you don't hold it up, this could break on you. My tomatoes are pretty flexible, but sometimes they're breaky, and so it's not worth risking your plants. So wait till you have some help to do this step if you don't feel comfortable. All right, so I'm just going to go ahead and tape the rest of this up, and I'll come back to you guys when I'm done. All right, so as you guys could see, I was actually successful. Trimmed off some actually more of the suckers. Got this trellis right up straight, and from the big mass bush, we just got one plant. The cool thing is, you know, the massive root system that has been in the ground that was supporting the massive growth is now supporting just one single stem branch. So now that guy's gonna grow like crazy and hopefully put on lots of tomatoes for me. As you guys can see in this one pepper bed, it's like 4 foot by 16 feet long. I just saved basically 3 tomatoes at different places, maybe like, you know, at 2 of the ends and 1 kind of in the middle. And so I'm going to let these guys grow. The rest of the tomatoes got 86th for those of you guys that are old timers. And I want to go ahead and show you guys just how this single stem looks, because that's important to me, so you guys could get a close-up on my important work. And if you want to do this, how it might want to look, you know, if you single stem your tomato. All right, so we're going to start at the bottom of the pole. Once again, there's the bamboo and there's the stake. And as we go up, I want to try to follow the stem. You know, here's tomatoes, and as you guys can see, all the different cut marks there. I just basically cut them all back because I don't want the tomato leaves competing at the level where my peppers are. And as you guys can see, I got plenty of peppers coming in that I'm waiting to ripen up. A lot more there. But yeah, let's go ahead and continue up. So I have, you know, the Velcro holding the bamboo to the metal stake. And as we go up and up, you'll see a lot of the points where I trimmed off the leaf on the bottom and the sucker on the top. And once again, more tomatoes. I started leaving leaves here. This is about the level of where the peppers, the height. And as we go up more, there's more tomatoes. And, you know, I left this leaf coming out, but cut the sucker. Once again, have the leaf, cut the sucker, left a few tomatoes. Going up. We're past maybe the 4 foot mark because this is a 5 foot metal stake, and if we go in, you know, about a foot, then we got the pole going up a couple more feet. And as we go up and up, you'll just see I just you know, every now and then I just use the Velcro tie to you know, tie it to the bamboo, so we get it to go straight, and just we go up and up, up and up, up and up. And as you guys can see, up at the top, we got some flowers happening. So this guy's going to continue to make tomatoes for me, even in the 100+ degree weather. And yeah, once again, this is a volunteer. So I wanted to take the time and actually show you guys one of my volunteers and what it actually has turned into. So here's one of the volunteers. It was one of those, you know, like melon vines that was like I showed you in the other bed. And this is what it turns into right here. As you guys can see, I'm going to try to be careful because I don't want to detach this guy. This is one large cucumber. Hey Lauren, I got one large cucumber for you. All right, so anyways, this is a volunteer, and this is a striped Armenian cucumber, and I'm happy that it actually came back for me, and it came back in a very convenient place. It was on the edge of my pepper bed. So what I did was, I'll show you guys in a second, I actually built a trellis for it specifically. I trimmed it back, trimmed off all the suckers, and then I guided it up my trellis so that it's growing where I want it to grow instead of growing where it wants to grow, like all over my peppers and shading them out. So in this way I was able to bring them off the peppers, I'm able to grow more food easily, and able to let my peppers grow. And so I think this is a huge benefit. I mean, another thing that's really important to me is that, for you guys that are out there, you guys, when you direct seed plants versus transplant things in, and I want to remind you, when you have weeds, those are direct seeded, even though you didn't do it, and you have good soil, a plant is going to be, at least twice, if not 3 or 4 times or more as healthy as a transplant. Why? Because it hasn't had the transplant shock. It hasn't been moved from one place to another. Like, if you guys ever moved and had to pack up your house and move, that's like a lot of stress on you, right? And you're never quite the same. You're like, remember that time we moved, the movers forgot the box with the plates, and they forgot the clothes, and we couldn't like go to work for a week, or, I mean, you guys all have your stories. But basically, there's a stress of the move, and when you transplant any plant, there's a stress. So, I've noticed the plants that are, volunteer weeds, like my tomato volunteers, are at least twice as strong and affected by diseases less than the ones I've transplanted and brought into my garden. Now, this is not always the case, but in most cases it's true. So that's why I really like to preserve the weeds whenever I can. All right, so let me go ahead and show you guys this crazy trellis that I built for my striped Armenians here. All right, so as you guys can see, this is the trellis I built for my striped Armenians. Basically, I sunk a couple like bamboo poles into the ground, and I used some kind of like trellis system that I have, and then basically I made them climb up, and then they're actually getting too tall, so then I used another trellis panel, and then I used some bamboo, and then I've actually made it come over to this side, which is my cucumber trellis against the wall or the fence, and then it basically makes like a little walk-through, which I really like. Now, don't hang on this and try to do pull-ups or nothing. That's not going to hold you, but it's sufficient enough to hold the striped Armenians. And as you guys can see, here's a little baby starting to grow. So my goal is to have striped Armenian cucumbers and have a nice shaded area, from the cucumbers, underneath, which is actually, there's nothing growing under there, so that now it's getting more sun, and I'm using more vertical space in my garden, which is huge because I don't have a lot of space. What we're looking over on this side is I put another one of these trellis panels in, which are actually quite handy. And these are volunteer tomatoes, some volunteer cherry tomatoes. And let me go ahead and show you guys some of the ones that are coming in, and I'll let you guys know how they taste, because I haven't actually tasted any of these yet this season. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed that episode, learning about what I do with my weeds, and basically trellis them up to grow them so I could grow more food in my garden and have more mixed diversity in my beds. A lot of times I don't like to mix my peppers with my tomatoes, because as you guys can see, the tomatoes will overtake your peppers, and then you won't get a lot of peppers, but get lots of tomatoes. And I'm sure many of you guys have learned this the hard way by, oh yeah, I'm going to plant my peppers next to my tomatoes. So I don't like to do that. But if they do come up, I'm not going to necessarily pull them. I'll actually just draw the peppers below and have the tomatoes go up high so that everybody could coexist in peace. And that's how hopefully everybody, all the humans on this earth should live. Just everybody should get along, be able to work out their differences, in peace. And I think one effective tool to do that, if you are having conflicts in your life, is actually called nonviolent communication. So Google nonviolent communication if you're looking to prevent conflicts with other human creatures, not your plants. I get along with plants really good, and I think all you guys do too, mainly one reason. Because they don't talk back! All right. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Be sure to like, subscribe, and check my past episodes. I have over 1,050 episodes now in all aspects of gardening, and basically what I do in my videos is just share with you guys what I'm doing in the garden and my ramblings and what I've learned over the years I've been gardening, growing food, and eating a healthy lifestyle, including lots of plants out of my garden. All right, so once again, my name is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com. We'll see you next time, and until then, remember, keep on growing. All right, this is John Kohler with growingyourgreens.com. There's another exciting episode for you today. We're going to go ahead and answer your guys' questions. So I want to apologize in advance. You know, I do these Q&A videos every once in a while, and I get so many more questions than I could even answer, and I get so many different questions, and people